Assalamu alaikum and a very welcome from Lahore, Pakistan to our global audience. On behalf of Beacon House School System, the organizer of School of Tomorrow events, I welcome you to a World of Tomorrow 2021 and beyond towards happier future, the 13th edition of School of Tomorrow SOT event series, which is fully virtual. The non-profit SOT event series was launched by Beacon House in the year 2000 as part of its CSR and to help inform the direction of the organization while also engaging global communities in conversations shaping the future of schools and societies. I'm Afshan Khalid, Head of School Evaluation Unit Beacon House, the moderator for this session. It is my great pleasure to welcome you today to this live session titled Beyond Reopening Schools, Emerging Priorities. We have an esteemed panel of experts today who will reflect on this issue of critical importance in the field of education, beyond reopening schools, emerging priorities. Please join me to welcome them. Joining us today, we have Ms. Attiya. Ms. Attiya has international experience of working in the education sector. Currently the academic lead, Central Region at the City School. She's actively involved in air quality related environment activism and is a member of the Punjab Environment Council, the Punjab government's smog committee. She serves as Secretary Afforestation, Lahore. Next is our honorable panelist, Mr. Suhail bin Aziz, Assistant Educational Advisor, Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training, Government of Pakistan. Thank you, Mr. Suhail, for joining us today. We also have Mr. Nadeem Ghani, Dean of Nixer, O&A level, and Civitas Schools. Mr. Ghani is recognized for innovating secondary education in particular and promoting advocacy and student voice and choice. Welcome, Nadeem, to the panel. Our next panelist is Mr. Shehryar Salamat, Executive Director of Salamat School System, Educational Management Limited. With more than 15 years of experience in the education sector, Mr. Salamat is a school leader and an entrepreneur. He oversees the operations of all SICAS, Salamat, and Kids Campus schools, focusing particularly in the operations of O&A level programs. We have one more panelist, and we are waiting for her to join, Ms. Baela Raza Jamil. She at the moment is in Gilgit-Baltistan, and obviously where she is, there are some connectivity issues. So she will join us as soon as she can. I request our viewers to share their comments and questions on SOTevents.com website, Facebook, or YouTube at any time during the session. We will take as many questions as we can in the last 15 minutes of the session. So with no further ado, let us begin. COVID-19 has brought many existing patterns and trends to the surface, as we all know. On the one hand, many weaknesses and vulnerabilities have been highlighted, such as inequality and inequity in access to education, and the lack of preparedness for a massive shift to digital and distance learning. On the other hand, however, some positive features within schools have also become increasingly visible. We have seen some remarkable resourcefulness, dedication, and creativity from governments, school systems, our frontline professionals, teachers and school leaders, families and students as well, who are collaboratively building remarkable learning experiences. So let's begin. My first question to the panel is in light of the fact that this, as the school year comes to an end, and planning starts for the next academic year with physical reopening of schools, fingers crossed, what lessons have schools learned from the past year that can guide them in future? Let's begin with Ms. Attiya. Would you like to go first?
Thank you very much, Afshan, for your very kind introduction. And
Sorry, Attiya, if you could please speak a little louder.
so is this better?
Thank you. Yes, it is better.
So thank you very much, Afshan, for your kind introduction, and hello and salam alaikum to the audience. Gee, indeed, Afshan, you're very right. When this pandemic and the sudden school closures were upon us, I think there was a lack of preparedness. I think all schools, all private schools, I should add, were working towards building up and ramping up their education technology, service delivery tools. But I think that no one expected that they would have to actually go online from one day to the next that fast. And I think schools, at least private schools in Pakistan, have done a great job in trying to ensure that learning never stopped. We devised timetables that were appropriate for various age levels. We tuned our teachers to be able to teach children through a small window from their homes. So all that took place, and it wasn't perfect. It was a rocky ride. Everyone learned as they went along, and I think this year has been a year of many lessons. What those lessons are, in our case, when like Beacon House, we're spread out across the country, varies from place to place. So in big metropolises such as Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, our experience and our lessons have been different. We know that there's more connectivity. We know that children are more tech savvy. There are more devices at their disposal. So they're able to attend online classes more effectively. And therefore we've had to have an approach that's appropriate for metropolises, that's appropriate for the kind of connectivity that they're able to have. But the situation is completely different when you go into more remote areas. For example, we have schools in places like Bihari, Rahim Yar Khan, Mardan, Swat, etc. And over there, the challenge has been much greater because with limited connectivity to begin with, and lack of devices, and often more than 3 to 4 children per household, we simply were not able to provide online education the way we were able to do so in the bigger cities. So that challenge brought its own set of lessons. We had to be creative. We had to, send worksheets home. Online learning wasn't always possible. Teachers had to stay in touch with students in other ways. So if I were to summarize what the biggest common lesson learned for us as a system across the board was, that we really understood that our teachers are our heroes. And whether it was teaching effectively online, or whether it was trying to ensure that the learning outcomes remained competitive in the more remote areas, they have worked immensely hard. Like you said, they didn't get time off. And I think that whereas we always valued our teachers, there's a hero-like respect, and we understand that we have to, it's them who we have to equip, bolster, and support as much as possible in times to come. Because you can replace anything. You can replace the classroom, you can replace the 4 walls of a school, you can replace the physical presence of children, but you cannot replace the teacher. So I think for us, that's been the biggest lesson. Thank you.
Thank you, Attiya. That's very important, that you cannot replace the teacher. And then also, you cannot replace a trained teacher and how to train. So what's your take on it, Shehryar? But before I give the mic to you, let me welcome Ms. Baela Raza Jamil to the panel. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Baela. Let me quickly introduce her to the viewers. Ms. Baela Raza Jamil, CEO of Idara Talimo Agahi, is an educationist, social activist, and a public policy specialist. She holds a large portfolio with being the director of the Institute for Professional Learning, a coordinator at the South Asia Forum for Education and Development, and managing trustee at the Sanjay Nagar Public Education Trust. She's also affiliated with the Technical Advisory Group of the UN Secretary General's Global Initiative on Education, the Advisory Board of the Global Monitoring Report, the Advisory Board Assessment at the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, and the Pakistan Coalition for Education. This is by no means an exhaustive list, so thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the panel, Ms. Baela. So we were discussing this question about what are the lessons learned and what is our preparedness for tomorrow. So Shehryar, would you like to contribute?
Sure. Lessons were learned first time around in early 2020 when the pandemic first caused us to disrupt the physical school, and we incorporated most of those changes in September 2020 as well for this academic year. But the learnings keep compounding, and for us it's been everything that Attiya said. Although we're not SciCas is only Lahore and we have one school in Multan, but we are mostly restricted to the Lahore metropolitan area and to urban areas. So by and large, we've had access to internet to roll out our digital learning. But I think one of the key problems all schools have faced is internet access for students and teachers, and to ensure that the schedule that we had created for online classes, that should roll out without any hiccups. And at our end, we had to really double the investment on our internet service providers to make sure that everybody had high bandwidth, and that more teachers could teach at a given time. Because traditionally we have let's say a 26-room school classroom. All 26 classes need to go on simultaneously, and that's usually very difficult to do when you've taken learning online. Simultaneously, we've had problems at the student end of things where not everybody had access to fast internet, and there were some issues that we had to help the students and parents overcome to engage with learning online. And the problem also lies in the format of online learning itself, because there is this a curtain behind which the teacher is standing or sitting and teaching to make sure that students take this online classes seriously. And we've had some cases where students would turn on their cameras or sign in and then disappear. I'm sure that's a worldwide phenomena. But we have played around with technology where we would be able to catch student truancy when it came to online teaching. Other than that, it's just been ways to manage the class schedules and to prioritize the coursework in such a manner so that the optimal time to each discipline was given, so that there were minimal essential learning losses. Some of the less important subjects from parental angles, I suppose, were given less emphasis, like physical education, like music, like our extracurricular program, almost came to a complete standstill. So we had to take our extracurriculars online as well, and we gave students a lot of opportunities, not just locally but internationally as well. And this has been some of the benefits of going online, that we could tap into international resources and international competitions, and really open up the students to international setting. So that has been there, and then obviously when schools were open physically, we tended to lull ourselves into believing that schools would not shut again, and I think that's the false optimism angle. That's been a learning experience. I've always played the devil's advocate when it came to scheduling of classes and for not underestimating the impact COVID would have on our society. So yes, I was proven right a number of times when others disagreed with me that there would be many disruptions over the course of the school year, and we have to prepare ourselves for the worst. And fortunately, thanks to this approach, we've been able to preempt some of the problems. We even have taken some of our exams online, which was a challenge because online exams are not well proctored, and we had to devise a clever honor code policy where students were given the controls in their hands. Yes, the cameras were on, but we relied on their that they would treat this as a invigilated exam, and that's been a part of the learning as well for us. Afshan, your mic is on mute.
Sorry about that. So, Nadeem, would you like to say, add on to what Shehryar mentioned?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm assuming you guys can see and hear me. Thank you, Afshan, for having me on board this panel. I would like to echo a lot of the sentiments that Ms. Attiya, Mr. Shehryar raised. And I think virtually every school that tried their hand online faced these issues and to a varying degree of success. What I want to add to this conversation is more around the purpose of a school, right? So if you look at the word, and part of the problem comes, it's evidenced by the fact that we use the word academics and education interchangeably. Academics is a subset of education, and schools provide education, not just academics. Tuition centers provide academics, schools provide academics, and so much more. And one of the bigger deliverables is a community, right? A space for students to come together. And when you walk on campus and you see your friends, all the way from a 3-year-old to a 17, 18, 19-year-old, all of us feel that same sense of belonging when someone waves to you or is waiting for you, saved a seat for you in class, or saved a seat for you in the cafeteria. So there are so many things that a school offers. Now, what COVID forced us to do is unbundle this, right? And technology was a fantastic substitute, not a replacement entirely, but a substitute for what we were offering academically, right? And with time, where there is demand, supply will follow, right? There's demand for faster internet, it will come. There's demand for LMSs that integrate the entire learning platform, that'll come. It used to be $20 per kid per year. By the end of this year, we're getting offers for $5 per kid per year. So all of those, I'm honestly not worried that we will get our arms around this. And as tough as it was for us, there were universities in the US reaching out to schools in Pakistan, and I know that firsthand, because some schools in Pakistan were able to deploy the online option faster and better than many schools around the world. So sometimes I feel I want us to check ourselves when we assume that our ability to react from a technology standpoint isn't quite as good as so many other places. I feel, I would agree with Attiya, I would agree with Shehryar that challenges exist, and particularly for the more remote areas where larger footprint schools like City and Beacon operate. But I feel that problem will have solutions. But as long as we identify a problem, I feel the problem where a lot of kids face that was very difficult to do anything about was something that was also touched upon, is this element of mental health, right? Human beings are social animals. We are designed to function not in isolation, but with constant support, physical, moral support, emotional support from each other. This is where I feel schools' true value comes into play, because schools that were only offering an academic outlet, I think, would largely find the challenge and the alternatives provided now by technology, difficult to compete with. Zoom and so many platforms like that, it's like the Uber of education. It is from consumer to supplier. You don't need an intermediary. The latent talent, my personal automobile, which I can now drive as an Uber, we don't need giant yellow taxi services or metro taxis. So a school, as if it's only providing academic sort of solutions, I feel will be challenged by strong tuition centers, as they should be, because those tuition centers need just this technology. All they miss right now is the revenue capture model, right? And once that is mastered, I feel that element of the school is actually really well addressed. And I think schools need to think down the line that, let's say we don't even offer academics. There are other avenues for it that function better than what we could have done. Because if you think about what does a student have now through online learning that they didn't have before? They have access to recordings. If you missed a class before, you missed it. Now you can go back the entire year. There are teachers who've recorded their lectures, amazing teachers. So while I would agree with Attiya, I would agree with Shehryar that we value our teachers, they have been superheroes. But I feel when you say teachers are not replaceable, they're very scalable, right? So a teacher that was limited to a 30-person classroom now has a 300-person classroom. So there is an infinite amount of scalability available. So I think all of us providers and service providers in education need to take a look at our long-term fit in this space. And I think schools need to evolve into providing the kind of things that they can now provide best, which requires an infrastructure, a campus. But if we try to force fit technology back into the campus, I feel we will be missing the larger picture, right? I feel this genie is out of the bottle. It should have been out of the bottle, and it will unbundle a whole host of opportunities that will benefit the student. The schools need to keep up with the changing demand of this space.
Thank you, Nadeem. Very pertinent points. And my taking this discussion onwards, my question will be to Ms. Baela, Raza, Jamil, and Mr. Suhail. With SNC around the corner and the lessons learned this past year, so how well prepared are we for the future? So whoever wants to go first. No, Ms. Baela, we can't hear you.
I think she has connectivity issues. So let me start with the thing then. As it was very difficult for the private sector schools to come up with the solutions and for those problems which they had never anticipated. And one thing we have learned, a big thing that we need to look into our students' holistic learning, and then there is no parallel of classroom teaching. That's obvious. At the same time, what we have learned here that we have to prepare our students, our teachers, and the society for something unseen. So till now, what we have been doing is we have been trying to prepare our students for the problems of today. But we have to look forward. The time when they come into market as a fine product and what sort of problems they will be having at that time. So we have to look into future. We have to work more on problem solving skills of the students. And this is what we are trying to do in a single national curriculum, as we call it. The first phase of which has already been completed, notified, and coming August, we are going to launch this. This will be rolled out for grades pre-1 to 5. So the textbooks have been printed by public sector organizations, and many private publishers are already printing their textbooks, and they're getting no objection certificates, and then they will be in the schools. The lessons on government side, when we look into it quickly, it was understood that we have to come with something out of the box. So you see, we came up with the educational TV that was available with the widespread of that PTV, and that was available throughout the day from morning till evening. And then we came with another model that was a radio school, and understanding that okay, net connectivity might be a problem in many areas of Pakistan. Television coverage is another issue in many parts of Pakistan, but then radio coverage is something that is everywhere. So looking at it at a macro level, these were the steps which were taken by the government. And well, the way it was a problem for the private schools to come up with adjusting their curricula, the same thing was done for SSC, the secondary school certificate exams, as we call it, matriculation and FSC examinations. So we worked on that. We came up with the models where those curricula they were just shortened, they were just adjusted. So another lesson that we have learned is, well, we need to look into something that's absolutely necessary, and then we have to prioritize it from right from the beginning. Uh, from government side, it was always very difficult to take decisions, as we were discussing before the start of this webcast. Uh, when Minister Shafkat Mahmood Saab, people were waiting for his tweets, and at one point, students were very happy with his decisions, and another time, they were very much angry. I must say, the way they came up with their tweets and replied to his tweets. That was very sad in a way. Well, many people thought, as Shehryar was saying, that during examination there were issues of just turning off the cameras and using other things, and you cannot rely on only on technology at that point. So, and for macro level examinations, it is more difficult, I think. And for that reason, the decisions which have to be taken, they have to be well thought out, and keeping in view all stakeholders in mind, and then those decisions are taken. So as we see, well, these decisions, you never know about tomorrow. Uncertainty is there. Schools, what they have learned is they need to get ready for all sorts of situations. Parents, they have to understand, well, now old model is over, and they have to get ready for this new normal. And for students, of course, as Nadeem Ghani was saying a little before, that young students, even grade 2 students, grade 1 students, they have to be dealing, they are dealing, in fact, with this technology independently. Many a times their parents are not available to help them with this technology, when to log in, when to log out. So all these learning things which we are taking along, and hopefully when in August we enter into new academic year, so we'll be much more ready as we were in 2020 when we were starting it.
We hope so too. We hope so too. So my next question is something that has been the discussion and debacle and debate of the day. It's about the disruptions, particularly for ONA level schools. So with that as a focus, and Nadeem just mentioned about well-being also, what should schools anticipate around behavioral and mental health needs of students and teachers, for that matter too? So for ONA level schools, so the question is open. Whoever wants to take this one.
I can take a swing at.
Sure.
So Asha, the question around what should one expect coming down the line, I think a lot. Before I even answer that, I think the major stakeholders in the decisions that are being made as far as ONA levels is concerned is the federal government, the provincial government, schools, students, parents, and Cambridge. I genuinely think I don't think I can identify anything which, unless one is being cynical, could say that we're not thinking in the best interest of students, and their safety being the primary deliverable, right? So I want to go on record saying that it is unfair to characterize any one segment's efforts as being misaligned with the best interest of the student. And I think everybody's understanding of what is in the best interest is different. And there we can have that debate. And there were so many, from so many voices talking about center assessed grades. Some felt totally opposed to it. My point is, I feel we've got to recognize that there's no bad guy here, right? I think there are a lot of people
Very
working
true.
very, very hard. And there's some very, important points to be made from all segments. So a healthy debate is necessary, but I feel that debate has been restricted to Twitter wars, and I think that's sort of where things have gone a little, sort of veered off the course. Okay, so that said, the decisions that have taken place, particularly now, with the Thursday decision from Cambridge and the federal government to allow grade 11 students to take exams, the vast majority of them, and and the reason is they're moving to a next stage. It's not an intermediary stage, it's not a stepping stone. A1s, however, are still, trying to figure out exactly how they will manage this this curveball. But grade 11 and second year students, I think by and large now are sorted, right? By and large. Grade 10 and AS, those are the issues. Now, for these students in particular, and grade 10 Pakistani Islamiyat Urdu, I feel that is also manageable, right? But taking your entire load of AS subjects, A2 is hard enough without that, right? But if you take all of those exams, I feel this is now our most vulnerable group of kids, most vulnerable segment. And going in, our policies need to be designed to take into account not just the physical strain, the academic strain, their global competitiveness, but also, again, the emotional strength. Because now keep in mind, these are the same kids who came into A levels without taking an O-level exam on center assessed grades, right? So the problem is compounded twofold. So I feel not just the school, but the education community as a whole needs to direct a lot of its energies, both in terms of academic support, policy modifications, deadline adjustments, things like that. And first and foremost, having some sort of emotional mental support for students going in. And the last point I wanted to mention here is there are some students who will also not have the skill set to reach out for help. So if we're only helping those who reach out, I feel we will have missed a sizable segment of students who now, keep in mind, have gone through A levels and have, in some cases, never seen the inside of a classroom. I've never met a teacher, don't have any friends on campus. These are students who, if we are not looking for them, searching for these students, I feel there's a lot that we will not have addressed, right? So my request to all schools and all agencies that are interested in making a difference in education, this is a segment that is the most at risk right now.
Thank you, Nadeem. It's really important. Yes, Ms. Baela, were you saying something? My question was about how schools engage the entire school community to establish safe environment for all educators, school staff, and students. Well-being of staff and students is essential. So that's what we were discussing. So before we lose you in the mountains again, Ms. Baela, we know that you're connecting from Gilgit-Baltistan. Would you like to share your thoughts? And then we can go back to the rest of the panelists.
Thank you so much. Want to congratulate you on holding this session. I think Beacon House is extremely contemporary on having such debates and dialogues. First of all, I think just on that point, I want to congratulate the government. I had been hankering for the past 5 months to declare the workforce, the education workforce, as frontline workers. And finally, it has happened, and at a very rapid scale. First of all, the security of our education workforce is being ensured through an accelerated vaccine regime. So I think hats off to that. And I think one should acknowledge when things happen in a progressive manner. I also think that it's been an incredible accelerator, the COVID. I call it sometimes the COVID dividend, rightly so, because things have happened in this disruption, which perhaps would have taken us decades, sadly and tragically. And that includes the EdTech accelerator. And when I say that, I take into account the challenges of equity, where EdTech connectivity is a big challenge, such as in Gilgit-Baltistan. I'm sitting right here begging the SCO to be able to give me access so that the whole world and whole of Pakistan can be a part of the Pakistan Learning Festival, the largest learning festival we have, with 16 learning strands that are desperately needed, especially at this point when we are talking about mental and emotional well-being of both teachers, students, and also parents and caregivers. Everybody is in a very stressful state, and they would like to participate in solutions, whether it pertains to the learning challenges of their students and children, or whether it pertains to other information which is very critical at this point. Parents are, whether they are their children are going to a rich school or a government school or a madrasa, every parent is tuned on to what next. It's been 15 months of a huge challenge for learning. However, on a plus point, what we have seen is an amazing trust factor rise up. Earlier, we used to put blames, the teachers on the parents not giving attention, the parents on the teachers, and so on and so forth. The blame game has now been put aside in many ways because there is no other option but to trust each other and even trust the children. So a society which suffers from an awesome trust deficit, I think, has come a long way in this 1 year or 14 months. And I think we need to acknowledge that. I also talk about the learning of a new cadre of learners. And I see co-creators of learning, be it the students, the parents, or the teachers. But I find that when I see, even for Sanjay Nagar School, which is a low-cost school, which is an IB school for the poorest, 24/7, whenever kids can have access to a smartphone or they just are there trying to show their work, trying to tell what they can do. I've seen some of the worst teachers who were non-performers become performers. So having said that, coming down to a very important question, I'm glad Suhail Saab is there also, as are all the eminent members of the education community. That one thing that we've been lacking in, and one has been saying this for a long time, we have very poor services when it comes to health, hygiene, and mental health. In fact, this is a very big issue when you look at the Ministry of Health guidelines, both in terms of infrastructure as well as health services. We have been ignoring that for too long. I think now the choice of leaving health services and even mental health services aside is not a question anymore. So what do we do? And I think in Pakistan, this period has also seen an amazing innovation acceleration. For example, Sehat Kahani and other telehealth, which includes mental health solutions, are happening. And I'm happy to report that in the Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training's initiative with JICA, where ITA is working, we have just introduced Sehat Kahani to 20 FD schools on a pilot level to see what happens. Now, if you can, and the Ministry of Health is delighted by it. Now, if you can have a low-cost telehealth solution, which includes mental health and well-being, I think you are up for a great winning option where you can have a mix and match, a kind of an option where you could have some, because public sector health services don't always work, and they will improve because we have seen in the SRS program and the social protection program and a phenomenal outreach. We've seen in the vaccine outreach a phenomenal response. So things will improve because this period has shown that the ability of government, industry, private sector, civil society, innovators, communities coming together like they've never come before. Can we see this moment being extended beyond COVID? Can we see health services become a part of our school systems? Can we see more regular drills on emergency and managing hazards, as we always used to put it aside? I've been arguing for emergency training since 2005 when the earthquake came. We have not taken this on board, and I think a lot is happening, which is good, which is, I think, a possibility. And certainly health services in schools can become real for both public sector schools as well as, of course, the elite schools don't have a problem of funds. But I think what our innovative telehealth services like Sehat Kahani are doing are incredible, and we need to applaud that. I just want to end by saying, from this segment, that we have also seen the learning content go up, as also we have seen life skills content go up, which deals with this has now become a part of tele-school content as well. But
thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Ms. Baela. We have about 3 minutes left and a number of questions are coming our way. I'll pose the next question to Ms. Attiya and Shehryar, and then Mr. Suhail definitely. So one of the questions the audience is asking is about what could be some targeted approaches to address the larger learning losses of students belonging to under-resourced communities who were already facing layers of disadvantages at a greater scale. And in continuation to that, maybe after Attiya and Shehryar have shared their thoughts, Mr. Suhail can, wind up by commenting on what professional development dashboard can be recommended. Does it include assessing student achievement in a virtual world? So we'll come to that. So let's utilize the next couple of minutes for that.
Answer to the first question that you posed, because I've seen it myself. I've been to rural communities where schools have been more or less completely shut for the last 15 months. And parents have come to me and said that all our kids do from morning to evening is play on the streets, and they have no routines. They have no, they have no sort of, there's no development happening in any form of whether it's academic, as the distinction that Nadeem Saab made earlier, whether it's their academics or whether it's their holistic education. And even parents in remote rural areas are very concerned. And perhaps Suhail Saab can shed greater light on this. I think that it's not a challenge with an easy answer at all. How are you going to bring all these millions of children? How are you going to catch them up for everything that they've lost? And how are these teachers going to be trained? Teachers teaching in these remote communities, how are they going to be trained to cater to? I saw a question about this as well, the emotional and mental well-being of these children who are now used to doing nothing. It's not. I've seen the lag in my own children, despite regular online classes, in their learning outcomes with with everything that a private school has to offer. So how do you take that much bigger leap where these resources are not available to these students? Now, if I pick up on the point that was going on earlier about O and A level students, and we speak a lot about the Twitter wars, etc. But if you link it to what these children have been going through, the O-level exam, the metric exam, the A-level exam, these are some of the first and most intense exams of your life in what is a precarious age in any case. We can't underestimate the stresses that these children have been through. And I feel that we, like Nadeem Saab said, that we must recognize that, we must support them, and to a large extent private schools are able to do that through our guidance counselors, through our teachers, who not just of course provide academics but also education, through the community that is available to privileged children. But I think that private schools must recognize the responsibility they have to the larger community, and in some way, shape or form devise a formal framework in which we are able to support what is a disaster, in my opinion, for education in what happens outside our little bubble of private schools and education. So, and I think that this needs to be a collective effort. And I think that it is very much within the capability and capacity of the resources we have available to us in terms of our training programs, in terms of our education technology tools, to be able to do our bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Attiya. Shehryar, would you like to add to this?
Yes. So although I belong to the private sector, I do recognize that the public-private divide is huge and can only be bridged through public-private partnerships. And I think since 2005, in Punjab in particular, there have been strong initiatives such as the Foundation-Assisted Schools under PEF, which have created almost 3,700 schools under public-private partnership, which have endeavored to address the gaps that exist in the public education sector. Overall, the stats are astounding. We have, across Pakistan, we have almost 44%, I believe, of students which are from ages 5 to 16, which are out of school right now. So the COVID element has really exacerbated the situation, and there needs to be greater level of partnership between private and public to address all of the issues of not just learning losses, which are tremendous and incalculable in the context of Pakistan, but also the socio-emotional, the mental health problems that children from underprivileged backgrounds are facing at this time due to growing up in isolation, not having a community to belong to, not having a teacher who they can address for their needs, and not being guided in any which way. So yes, as Attiya mentioned, the problems are seemingly impossible to tackle head on, but collectively I feel we can make a difference, and that's where Pakistanis usually shine in terms of their philanthropy, in terms of coming forward and contributing to the public sector.
Thank you, Shehryar. And taking on from there, Mr. Suhail. Shehryar just mentioned public-private partnerships also. So keeping in mind the question that I had posed earlier too, about professional development dashboards and opportunities for teachers, should schools modify their calendars to increase teacher professional development this year? And what kind of mutually beneficial systems and frameworks can be envisaged to ensure collaboration for such initiatives between public, private, and not-for-profit schools?
I think a big difference between last year and this year is we are much more ready than before. Last year, we didn't know what sort of situation we are going to face, but now we are very much ready. And if you're talking about public-private partnerships, so this tele school is a very good example there. in teleschools in the beginning, the lessons which have been used, they were provided by different private sector organizations. They had already recorded them, and they were generous enough to share those for this public cause, And as far as teacher training is concerned, we are very much aware of this, and that is the reason that while working on single national curriculum, it was not just the curriculum document that was being developed. At the same time, we were developing, these teacher training modules with collaboration of one of the top universities of Pakistan, that is Khan University Institute for Educational Development. And those modules which have been developed, one essential part of those modules is to help students in their, mental well-being, which is on stake now. And our teachers were never ready for that. And before, here the role of provinces is very important. I want to give an example of Punjab province here. They have already started training, and in the first phase, they're training. I have figures here. So they are training 48 master trainers, and then there will be 1,716 lead master trainers. And then in 36 districts, we will have 400,000 plus teachers trained in next 2 months. So and the calendars are changed, as I said earlier, like normally the classes were starting in public sector, the classes were starting in the month of April, but now they are going to start those classes from August. So the way the calendar has been adjusted because of this COVID thing, at the same time, it helped us to just train our teachers during these couple of months, and then rolling out this single national curriculum in August with better preparation, along with assessment frameworks which are ready, and they are going to encourage teachers how to use different methods of assessment, not only that pen and paper thing, and they will be focusing more on formative assessment now, that is assessment for learning. So that is a target which we are bringing with single national curriculum. And as I said, Punjab has taken the lead, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa already they are working on this. So other provinces, they are also coming with their programs, and hopefully once this session starts, so we'll be ready for that. And seriousness from government point of view, yes, that is there, as Baela mentioned there. Now they have been declared as frontline, workers, like our medical frontline workers. So that at the same time, our teachers and other school staff, they have been given, access to walk-in vaccination, and that has started from today. In fact, today, 29th of May, and you see that will bring a huge change there. While reopening the schools, we'll have some very positive numbers behind. Well, most of our teachers, they are now vaccinated. Most of these frontline workers, they are vaccinated. And then using all those precautions, those SOPs given by NCOC and NCC, if the schools are following that, hopefully that will bring some change. And last but not the least, may those be private schools or government schools, on a again on a macro level, when we talk about overall government system, so we have to see, well, we have to keep some psychiatrists for this mental well-being of the students and teachers alike, and overall school environment will be much better, hopefully.
Thank you, Mr. Suhail. That was really very informative. One question from the audience is that would we continue with some percentage of online education even when we are going with physical reopening of schools? And if so, how are the SOPs going to be followed and affect the student attendance in classes? Who would like to take this question?
Can I say something on that, just very short?
Yes.
One is that there has been a decision that, for example, teleschool will continue post-COVID. I think also in good practice and good faith, the online practice, because the government, for example, if I take that, so many of the teachers have gone through many Microsoft training modules. I think some of those good practices should continue and persist so that it will help us from what is being proposed as formative assessments and also project-based learning to encourage students to have more agency. So I think this should persist no matter what. We are on a good thing. Let's not leave it, and let's deepen it further for digital transformation, but looking also at the most extreme end of the spectrum, where technology remains a challenge, where you still need to complement with other methods. Thank you.
I think since uncertainty is still there, and we are not sure when we are coming back to normal, or will be able to come to that normal which was considered normal before pandemic. So that's a good strategy that this teleschool will continue, as government has already taken decision about, and the teachers are being trained for these models. At the same time, it's hybrid learning or integrated learning, as we call it. So that is the new normal, I believe, and that should continue. And government is thinking on these lines, of course.
Your mic is mute, Nadeem.
All right, how about that? So one of the things that it's important to keep in mind, there are two things that were missing pre-COVID in terms of tech. One was the willingness to adopt technology, right? A sincere commitment to learning new skills. And the other was the capital investment, getting laptops and LMSs and bandwidth and so on and so forth, right? Now, just to survive this year, both those have been done. Skills have been, largely disseminated to teachers, students, parents, counselors. Equipment has been purchased. And even if you wanted, this is not going away, right? So anything that will sustain itself will find and there's a market need for it. I don't think we have to try anymore. That will continue because a competitive edge can be gained by people who can leverage both from a teaching and a learning perspective from sustained deployment of this approach. So for example, in schools, there were times when teachers had to travel for non-discretionary reasons. Students had to travel for non-discretionary reasons. They had to go. If, as a teacher, my parents are not well and they live in a different city, I'd go, right? Now they can go with ease, right? Students, if they miss something, these lectures are all getting recorded. They can view it. My point simply is the following. I think anything that still requires us to overcome activation energy will die away, because these pains, these memories will fade. As much as we can, sort of say that we'll never forget, human beings forget, right? That's how we are. So only those things that we have invested enough in already and will naturally sustain themselves will continue. And in terms of educational technology, as Ms. Baela mentioned, I think a lot of this will continue. I can speak for my organization. There are so many things that we've reflected on, which we are doing better now. A tiny, well, forget examples. Every school will have their own examples, but there are so many things that are better with tech. And it would be foolish to walk away from that. They will naturally move forward.
So, yes, Shehryar. Last question, let me pose it quickly, and please, we have a minute for you. Would online assessment be a priority? And over to you, Shehryar.
Yes, I was just going to chime in and agree with everyone that technology is here to stay. COVID forced our hands, and there's no going back now. We've all realized the tremendous benefit that technology brings to the classroom, particularly when you leverage artificial intelligence and student learning simultaneously. There's a lot of growth. That's where the future lies in technology and education. Really, compartmentalizing the knowledge and skills that students need to know and linking it to the curricula and the student attainment levels. And part of it is going to be assessments going online. We may even see the presence of schools which don't have physical structures, just online schools purely. And for example, in A levels, we do have the capacity now to roll out A level classes to students in an online fashion, well beyond our physical boundaries. So we will definitely see all of that. Just the last point, that I feel that COVID will be a force to reckon with in the near foreseeable future, till we get 50% or more of our population vaccinated, which we are a long shot away from doing. And we should brace ourselves for more of the same next year, and hope that we are able to overcome all the obstacles. And getting all the teachers vaccinated is a huge priority right now for us. And that's my 2 cents on this issue.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Time is up. This brings us to the end. It's been an enlightening and engrossing discussion, and I'm sure our viewers must have enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed discussing a number of aspects. It's a long discussion, and we hope to come back to this sometime soon. All the best. Thank you once again, and take good care of yourselves. Stay well.
Thank you, Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.